The 16th century was an exciting, not to say dangerous, time to be a Christian. It was the period of Reformation, first in Europe and then here in England. The very time when the image of Our Lady of Walsingham was taken away from this place and burnt, some claim in front of St. Thomas More's house in Chelsea. The great Augustinian priory in the village was pulled down. The stone used to build other edifices. The priory itself converted into a mansion. It needed faith and courage to hold fast to the orthodox ways of believing and praying. If you opposed the winning forces, you could be arrested, tried, condemned, executed. Strangely, Christianity has always been at her strongest in conditions like these, when it's impossible to be lukewarm in faith, when each soul has to stand up and be counted, when so many are inspired to do just that, even at immense personal cost. So does a Christ indeed. Such was the background of St. Ignatius, that of a soldier in the army, and we believe his honour and valour were exemplary. He had a dazzling military career ahead of him. But God had determined otherwise. God often does. So Ignatius was wounded during a battle in 1521, suffered much pain and difficulty with the setting and resetting of his broken leg. And he tells us that during this convalescence, he was given a life of Christ to read and lives of the saints. In the long hours, Ignatius applied his psychology to his reading, and so the method of imaginative contemplation was born. On his recovery, he made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem and returned to begin theological studies, first in Spain, but later in Paris. And on the Feast of the Assumption, in 1534, the very year that Walsingham was destroyed, he vowed to live a life of poverty, chastity, and apostolic adventure. He and his companions planned to go to the Holy Land to preach, but delays, ill health, and political trouble forced a change of plan. God at work again. He had a better plan in store for them. So in 1538, they went to Rome. And when Ignatius was ordained priest in 1540, the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, was approved by a decree from the Pope. We know how God's plan has flourished. The faith was taken by the Jesuits to the New World, the Americas. Their motto, Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, sums up all is undertaken to the greater glory of God. We heard that in the first reading today. Out of love for Christ and loyalty to the Holy Father. Those unable to venture abroad too have their mission to fulfill Ignatian spirituality. It gripped the Church, and Ignatius's spiritual exercises have been practiced ever since. You may not even know them by that name, but I'm sure all of you have practiced them at some stage, reading portions of the Gospel 2-3 times and trying to think yourself into that scene, imagining that you are one of the participants in the episode that's described, and then going back and reading the passage again and using that as a basis for your personal prayer. I'm sure all of us have done that from time to time. That's pure Ignatius. And during that 16th century, The rites of baptism of the Church were revised, quite possibly under Ignatian example, and each Christian was exhorted to be a soldier for Christ, with the cross of Christ as a banner under which to fight against sin, the world and the devil. All of us here have had that cross imprinted on our foreheads. So, have we the courage and zeal to practice what we preach and fight against the powers of secularism and evil that are all around us? And what's possibly the worst enemy of all, the sin of indifferentism, the attitude that, what does it really matter? After all, it's the same God, isn't it? Everybody does it. Why shouldn't I? May Ignatius of Loyola pray for us and inspire us to become better soldiers for Christ, to never yield in this constant struggle with ourselves and with the world.